Hey, this is Madeline Sklar.
And Suze Cooper, and you're listening to All Things Audio.
Yeah, we're going to kick this off with last week, literally the day after. It seems like I'm noticing a pattern, Suze. The day after, we host this on Wednesdays every week. It seems like every time we're researching and seeing what are we talking about for our next episode, it's always on Thursdays that Twitter Spaces is doing things, because that's when a lot of these screenshots we're going to be showing are from the day after our last room in Spaces, where Twitter is just uncovering so many things. And Hosteline did one of his feature alert for Twitter Spaces with this new RSVP, which I was super excited to see when he shared it. And I have got a screenshot here for the Nest in Spaces. And for those listening in the podcast, we'll have that link in the show notes as well. I was so excited to see that, we could actually see how many people are planning to attend. That actually set the reminder. It's only going to show a number of how many did that. But initially, when I saw this, I thought my first instinct was, as a host, we'd be able to see that number, but we're not going to see it for other upcoming rooms. But that's not the case. I could go and look up upcoming rooms and that you see it for everyone. That's pretty exciting, don't you think?
Yeah, and this is something that has literally just appeared on my phone today. So although Hosteline sent this screenshot to us last week, and I agree, Twitter are keeping us on our toes. They don't want us to rest. It only appeared actually on my my Twitter today. And like you, I thought, I'll only be able to see the number of people that have hit set reminder on Spaces that I'm hosting or that I've set up. But no, you can see it for everybody. And it is very interesting to be able to see that from a strategic creator / host point of view. Potentially you have a look through those and see which have got an awful lot of people going, and you think about how are they titling it, where are they putting the hashtag in, are they mentioning people, and all that kind of thing in their title, and then obviously going along yourself to listen to their content and to hear why so many people are excited about going along and setting the reminder and not wanting to miss it. So from a kind of intel point of view, from a host point of view, I keep getting asked a lot of time, how do we get more people into these spaces? How can we, really spread the word? I think the key, as with all these things, is create great content and let people know about it as much as you can. We've talked about discoverability. We're going to touch on it again, I'm fairly sure. But I do feel like this gives a kind of steer potentially to creators. If we want to see what other people are doing, we want to see why people are getting so excited about certain spaces, then, it will give us a little bit of information around how many people are excited to set that reminder and make sure they don't miss a space.
Absolutely. Here's something that's so interesting. So when Hosteline shared this last week, the layout for his was different in the screenshots. And there's also a tweet from Spaces I'm going to put in the Nest in just a moment. I was like, well, mine doesn't look like that. Now, the tweet I have in the Nest right now, this is from literally 30 minutes ago, because today I do see the new layout. I didn't see it before, but in this screenshot, I show the layout. But I'm going to share another tweet now that shows what it looked like for me last week, and I did one from yesterday as well. So for some people, you might still see the old version. They're rolling this out. It took me 6 days to get this new layout. But regardless whether you see this new layout in the Spaces tab, either way, it does show you the number of people that are planning to attend an upcoming space. So it's super exciting to see them moving along with this. I'm also going to share the actual tweet from Spaces showing this new, what they're calling multi-tab, that they've been testing for some people on iOS and Android. Do you have this newer layout? Did you notice with your Spaces tab?
No, I don't have the multi-tab layout at all yet. And in fact, the only way that I could see that that initial layout that Hosteline showed us, that's got kind of top and upcoming in the bar, was actually to do a search in the Spaces tab. Once I'd searched for something, so I searched for All Things Audio. Once I'd done that, I then got those 3 options to be able to filter it. So I'd expected to kind of see that when I opened the tab straight off, and I didn't. I needed to actually run a search to be able to get that filtering. But to see this now on the multi-tab, this looks like a kind of version 2, if you like, where those are buttons and there are more of them. So you've got happening now, coming up, recorded, and I think there was another one. Oh no, maybe that's it. Yeah, just those 3. Which, I think that's what we need, isn't it? We need to know what's going on, what's live right now that we can jump into, what's coming up that we might want to set a reminder for, and what's on replay that we might have missed that we want to go back and listen to. So yeah, I think they're great. 3 great filtering options, 3 buttons. I'm not sure whether or not, again, whether that only is going to appear for me once I've done a search, or whether that's automatically in the Spaces Discovery tab. Maybe Hoselin can enlighten us. Maybe he knows more. But certainly I don't have those 3 buttons yet, but I reckon that's probably coming. I feel like I'm a few days behind everybody else in terms of that rolling out. As you say, it's just kind of come to you in the last couple of days and to me in the last hour or so, really.
Yeah, I can say, going from yesterday with the old layout in the tabs and now having this new one, I like it a lot. It's easier to view. It's easier to just go through. It's just, to me, a whole lot better. So hopefully they'll start rolling this out to more people. But again, I'm just thrilled that everyone can now see how many people RSVP'd for a room. And for some people, that's important to know. And if you are thinking about starting your own room and you're looking to see what are other people doing, that's also a nice gauge to see, like, are people, how are they doing with their rooms? Watch to see how many people are RSVPing ahead of time, how many people, go to the replay, because we can all also see how many people listen to a room. And, interesting way to just kind of gather some data, some intel to see, like, is this a topic that's worthwhile to be diving into?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think I can see that Hoselin's actually DM'd us one of his amazing little screenshot videos as well, which actually shows that this comes from the tab. So that's really interesting too. So we can share that one out and add it to the show notes as well. But yeah, all good stuff, all still building on this discoverability. I think hosts will be very keen to see an update on the UI like this that actually makes it a bit more intuitive for people. We put a lot of work into putting these spaces together, so it would be good. And I'm sure we're not alone in that at all. I know we're not alone in that at all. So it really would be good to get more people in, more people listening, and more people's ideas in spaces. It'd be great to hear from more people.
Absolutely, for sure. You have something really cute you want to share. One thing, though, with this tweet I'm going to put up in the Nest is this one frustration I have with this new clips feature for spaces. When I first saw your tweet, and I just put it in the Nest, I just see it as, okay, this is a replay of the room you were in. And on desktop, all it lets you do is play the recording. It does not let you know that's a clip. But right now, I'm seeing it for the first time on mobile, and I realize, oh, this is actually a clip you made with the Twitter Spaces room with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, that's right. So this was yesterday evening. I just kind of came across this space that was going on, and I thought, I'll jump into that. There were thousands of people in it. There were about 8,000 people or something. It was crazy, the number of people in there. But I as I was in that, firstly, I never thought I would find myself between Warren G and Busta Rhymes in my life, and suddenly I was. And apparently it was actually them. I mean, it was definitely Snoop Dogg was in there, and the host had curated these people as speakers and whatever. I think Busta Rhymes had just jumped in to join in and see if he could. And so it happened that he was a listener, so he was to one side of me because of the way that the profile pictures, the way that the users kind of join in and are shown in the listener space. And it tickled me. I was just like, I never in my life thought I would be in this situation. And then Snoop started to talk about bringing Busta Rhymes up and giving him the mic. So the host then started to say, I'll send out the invite. And it was just like all of us have done. I mean, pretty much I would say at least half of us in this space have had the conversation they were having about, well, shall I just send him the request? Oh, has he got the request? I don't know if he knows whether or not he can accept the request. And they were doing the how do we use spaces thing. And Snoop said something like, oh, I didn't know how to do it either. Give him a second, he'll figure it out. I had to ask my son how to do it. And I just thought it was just such a human moment. And not only was it slightly strange that I could see myself between these people in this space. But just to hear him saying that was great. And I thought, oh, I'll clip that. And so I hit the clip button straight after he'd finished saying it, and then hoped that I'd got the bit that was the funny, if you like. And I captioned it because, of course, you have to caption it. So you have to write your tweet without knowing whether or not you've got the section of audio that you wanted, and you can't check it because the space that you're in is still live. So, there's no kind of stopping. If you were to jump out of it, you would lose that clip because you haven't actually tweeted it. So it's a real kind of moment of, well, I'll just hit tweet and then in a minute I'll leave this space so that I can listen to that clip that I've created and make sure that what I've sent out makes sense. And if it doesn't, I'll just delete it, which was totally my thought process. But yeah, so the little clip is Snoop kind of saying that he had to ask his son how to use Spaces, which I thought was rather cute. And just the whole experience just made me chuckle last night. And I thought, I'll bring that one to All Things Audio, because sometimes these things, they're just crazy. Like who'd have ever thought, and here we are on Spaces, and you really can kind of just jump into these different places where these conversations are happening. On an All Things Audio level, though, Madeline, I'm totally with you on the fact that if you're looking at that on desktop, it just looks confusing, to be quite honest. It doesn't work at all. They need to get on it. If Clips is going to be a thing, then beta test or not, it needs to work across the board, I think, because it just looks a bit weird.
It does look weird. And yeah, they need to come up with something, because it's, when I saw it on desktop, I'm on desktop a lot. Honestly, I'm on desktop probably just slightly more than mobile when it comes to Twitter. And I saw it on there. I'm like, oh, cool. That was a cool room you were in. And I just clicked on it to listen a little bit and see that they had over 100,000 listens. That was awesome. But I did not even know it was a clip until I looked at it in mobile. And I was like, well, because to me, they're like two completely different things. And they look different, and they're different. One's a playback of the whole entire room versus here's a 25-second clip you made.
Yeah, exactly that. And I did, I used the Spaces research on one of my clips that I sent out yesterday from a different room, because the captions, it just said, sorry, which I assume meant this isn't working, but, and I accept your apology. But yeah, that was relatively amusing. So I didn't have any captions on the two clips that I'd done. As we said last week, the card itself on mobile is confusing. It's trying to be a jack of all trades, and it's kind of doing too much all at once. I see why it's doing that. I understand that as hosts, we're trying to get more people into our space. So you want people to be able to hear that little clip that's been taken and pushed out. Someone's thought enough of the content to do that, and then to be able to immediately find where that came from. And if it's live, jump straight into it. I get that, but I'm not sure they've found the right UI solution for it yet. I think there's still a lot of kind of work to do on getting that right on mobile. And yeah, I mean, on desktop, it's just broke.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Exciting to talk now about LinkedIn audio. We've heard some about it, but not a whole lot. I came across such an interesting tweet last night from Sandra Long, and apparently she put together a LinkedIn audio events user guide. And I found it very interesting. I know it's in beta, but she basically put together a whole guide that whether you're a listener or you're hosting, everything you need to know, and how to find the events, how to register and join, how to share, how to raise your hand and engage. Very impressive. I still haven't been in one yet. I'm hoping that'll change soon. I just need to know when they're happening, and I just haven't had time to really dive into that yet. But you've been into some of these, right?
Yeah, and this is just such a clear guide. She has really written it so clearly. It explains everything that you'd want to know in such simple terms that I really encourage anyone who wants to find out about audio events on LinkedIn to just read through it. It's a 5-minute read, and it will give you everything you need to know. I mean, she's done it brilliantly. And like you, Madeline, yes, I have been in a few, but like you, I haven't been in as many as I would have liked to, because I found it difficult to find them. And the first thing that she's got in this user guide is how to find them. So, even just by me reading this, I'm more likely to go over there and be able to find them. I'd go into LinkedIn and go, well, they must be here somewhere. I'll search for audio events or I'll search for such and such. And I do know a couple of beta hosts. So, potentially I could just go over to their profiles and find, if they were inviting people, etc. But I wanted to kind of see exactly who those beta hosts are. And at the moment, it is only beta testers that have got the ability to spin up the audio events over on LinkedIn. They're still very much in the testing phase and with a small user group over there. But yeah, I think finding them, again, discoverability platforms, like they want people to make this audio content. And essentially, as we've said before, if people are listening to audio on a platform, it keeps them on the platform. We've spoken about how Clubhouse is introducing the games to keep people on the platform. Here on Twitter, it's the same thing. Like, we will stay on your platform, but we need to be able to find the good content first. And if people can't find your content, then your creators are going to leave you as well eventually. So it seems like such a key thing, and no one has got it right yet. No one.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. Well, this lady, Sandra Long, who wrote this, she is fascinating. I did not know about her prior to the tweet about her and reading this guide. And at the bottom of it, at the very end, she has like this nice little write-up about audio and, how she's using this new feature, being a beta tester, and talking about how she enjoys Clubhouse. This is a really interesting line she says in this. I also enjoy Clubhouse, but honestly didn't like being away from LinkedIn. She's like a LinkedIn expert. And like, that's what I think these platforms need to understand. Like, when I was doing Clubhouse, it was because Spaces had not started yet. I liked Clubhouse, when I first got on there, but I kept thinking, wow, I know Twitter is working on something like this. I wish they would come out with it already, because I don't want to leave Twitter. I want to stay in Twitter. And wouldn't it be great if I don't have to leave and go elsewhere to do audio, if I could just do it all in one place? So I think she makes this interesting point that she's basically saying the same thing, but about LinkedIn. And she says LinkedIn is a professional platform where she spends her time and engages with her members and grows her business. So I think, we talked before about how Spotify is now planning to make their audio app, part of Spotify, not a separate app. And I think that's going to be huge for them. So I think it's really smart, with these platforms to keep it all in-house so we don't have to go somewhere else.
That's kind of key to what they want. They want that, the length of time that we spend on their platforms to get longer and longer. They don't want us bouncing between the different apps to do the different things that we do. And, LinkedIn's got it's just such a fantastic place for audio. Like the professional connections that you make over there, you can now actually talk to those people directly. And, I think as well, looking at this in the way that the different audio events are categorized in the networking tab, they're organized by first level connections, university connections, geography and industry. And that just makes so much sense. Like, if I want to spin up an audio event with people within, say, the voice tech industry, then I'm going to be able to do that fairly easily. They're going to filter those connections that I've got that are industry based, and that's going to help so much with who you're talking to and the visibility within that industry. So, I think that they're obviously thinking it through. It just really, just needs that discoverability to be more obvious. And I get that it's still in beta over on LinkedIn at all. I suppose when I'm talking about discoverability, I'm literally talking about it across the social audio board. And I get that at the moment they probably don't want it highly visible because they're trying to test it, and that's the point. But it's got a lot of legs, I think, over on LinkedIn, and a lot of different ways that people will be able to use it. And as we've said kind of over the last year, Madeline, each of these different platforms is finding their niche. For LinkedIn, becoming a thought leader, talking about things that are going on in your industry, that is going to be the place to go if you want to do that over on LinkedIn, which is really going to give it its own flavour of audio over there. So this is a fantastic blog that she's put together, and really interesting to see all the different things she runs through about the analytics, all different stuff. Yeah, it's really good. I'm going to go over there and spend more time over there and see if I can actually find some more audio events, more than the ones, the odd one or two that I've kind of been invited to or allowed into. Actually, on that point, I've just put in the nest. Host Celine is on fire as ever and sending us stuff in the DMs while we're talking. And he's sent over a calendar that Judy Fox has put together of LinkedIn audio events. So I've shared that up in the nest in case anyone else is like me and wanting to take a listen to LinkedIn audio events but not sure where to find them.
That is an excellent idea that Judy Fox put together a calendar. That is so smart. I will definitely be checking that out. Thanks for putting that in the nest. And, we take all these tweets in the nest. I put it into a Twitter moment, which I will share at the very end. So, if you're not able to be grabbing these tweets as we're talking about it, you'll be able to just go to my one tweet of the Twitter moments. And it's a curated list of all of these tweets. And I'll be sure to add this in there in just a bit. So, that is excellent information to have. Well, now we're going to switch gears and talk about Clubhouse. You've uncovered a few Clubhouse things.
Yeah, so really I just wanted to mention this Wired piece that was written by Virginia Heffernan in the week. It's just such an intelligent piece about Clubhouse, but about social audio in general. It's a beautiful piece of writing, a nice bit of kind of longer form, if you like, online writing. And, she really just talks us through Clubhouse and its peaks and apparent troughs and, where it came from, why it grew. There are lots of different articles that are about that. But seriously, this one's so elegantly written. It was a joy to sit and read. And I just thought it was something to bring to All Things Audio because I think our listeners would enjoy it. So, yeah, she runs through all the usual things that we've heard before about, how Clubhouse led the way, how it was born out of the pandemic, how, the iOS only, invite only kind of was hoping to really hone in on a certain type of user, how they'd thought about it being a co-podcast listening platform initially, all of those kinds of things. There's nothing particularly brand new in it, but it's just the way that it's written is, just a joy to have a look at and a joy to read. And strangely, she mentioned Snoop Dogg being on Clubhouse at the end. So clearly I think the title of today's episode is going to have to include Snoop Dogg, I'm afraid, because we mentioned him twice now and I've probably not talked about him for years.
That is so funny. Well, and when you shared this tweet, I love how in the tweet you say, they had me at Site Isolates, Sound Incorporates. And when I looked at that article and I saw that first line as well, it really struck me too. It's like, wow, that was so well said.
It is. And this is something from Walter Ong, who's a tech philosopher. And essentially that came out of the fact that he talked about how spoken language was superior to written language. And yes, I've read that off of the top couple of lines of this because I wanted to get it right. But what he's saying is that, everything that we can convey in this spoken world, in the sound world, makes it such a richer experience than the visual. And I just feel like certainly the audio influx with audio over the last, few months and year or so has really taken that. It's the idea that it's not just a logo anymore, it's a sonic logo. Everybody's, connecting by listening to each other and talking to one another. And, one of the points that's made in here is around how these social audio platforms really kind of popped up because people had started to be interested in listening to one another and talking to one another again and human conversation. I think I would also add into that these platforms grew as the rise of smart speakers and voice technology and usage also grew. We'd started to talk to our devices for the first time in the year preceding that, in the couple of years preceding that, with smart speaker usage and purchase going kind of through the roof. So I think for me, that is where I was always waiting from that voice tech point of view and the interest in social media. I was always waiting for it to come onto social in some way. And that's how I feel like we've moved on. So she really talks about that whole, it's about the pleasures of speech, how we got used to, wanting to hear different dialects and intonation and all of that kind of thing. I still think that there's a layer of tech and AI that's actually slid in there, where we'd started to talk to inanimate objects as well. So I'm really interested in the way that she's put it, though. It's a really thoughtful piece.
Oh, most definitely. And then we've got one more article that you're also sharing with us that I also found fascinating. And what was so interesting is that I saw it in someone else. I didn't see your tweet first. I saw it through someone else's tweet, and I was reading the article. I'm like, this is really good. And then I saw that you had tweeted it out, and I'm like, cool. Great minds think alike. But this article about think social audio is a fad, think again, and talking about the power of social audio. Really a well-written piece, for sure.
Yeah, and that's why we do this together, Madeline, because we're reading the same thing at the same time without even realising. I love this because what he says here is that social audio should be centred on the topic and not the creator or the host. Now, he's talking from a marketing point of view, very specifically. But, there are a few people that responded to the tweet and kind of agreed with that idea that, actually, if you've got a great topic and you've got a lot of content around that to talk about, it's not about the person that's presenting it. We're facilitators and, we're recording this as our podcast, Madeline, but I know that the bit we enjoy the most is when we hand over the mic, which, by the way, everyone, we're about to do. And we talk to the people that are in here and we bring together the community. And, essentially that's what he's saying. If you've got a topic that people can engage with and that you can facilitate a good conversation around, then, that is really where it becomes a meaningful experience and you can really grow a community through that. And obviously, in marketing, the whole idea of building the community around what you're promoting is part of that. So, yeah, an interesting one, certainly an interesting one for marketers who are wondering, how do I use this social audio thing in my marketing plan? And just one simple line in there that just was so loaded in terms of, it's centered on a topic, not a creator or a host. And I think, that could be really key.
Oh, most definitely. This article definitely spoke to me because, just echoing all the things you're saying. I mean, social audio is great for community building, or if you already had, I've built online communities. I've been doing that for decades now. I can actually say that. Decades. Been building online communities since 1996. That is no joke. And when you're already building communities and you have a captive audience, I have found this to be such a great tool to just take it even further and get more people interested and involved. Because, audio is so easy. I think, we're all fatigued when it comes to Zoom calls. We're all tired of live streaming. I mean, look, I was all over live streaming when that was getting big. And I thought, what a great, powerful tool. What a great way to share our message, to bring people together, to have conversation. But over time, we all just got kind of tired of it. And you're like tied to a screen. And for us women, we got to make sure we look, presentable. Not everybody is into that. They're like, no, I can't live stream. I can't be on video. I don't look good. I'm having a bad hair day. Or, pick your, choose. We've heard them all. Lots of excuses. Audio is so powerful. Voice is so powerful. And you don't have to worry about if you're having a bad hair day or, oh, wait a minute, let me go put some makeup on. Just most of us women, usually we run into these kinds of issues. And listen, one of my online communities that I've been running for decades is women in music. And when live streaming was first getting going, all the way back to the Google Plus Hangouts, when that was all first starting, Google Plus, like 2010, 2011, I was like, this is going to be amazing. And here I had this community of women, and I couldn't get any of them to do it. They were like, I'm not getting on live video. I got to go get my hair fixed up and put on makeup and feel like I'm going to be presentable. I'm like, but no one else, it's just going to be a small group of us. No one else can see it. We can make it private. It's like, so I'm not doing it. So, I had a lot of pushback, but with audio, you just don't run into some of the issues you're going to have with live streaming. And this is all pre-pandemic, before everybody got so sick of getting on Zoom calls. I just find it so cool how social audio has really emerged since the pandemic and has become such a popular way for us to all connect. I love that we can all sit here, even though we're recording this as a podcast. You know, Susan and I love to podcast. Podcasting has been very good to me. It's been a great way for me to market my business, my services, bring people together, share my expertise. I have my Twitter Smarter podcast that's actually been on a hiatus for a while, but people are still listening to the episodes because all the content in that podcast is pretty much evergreen with Twitter tips. And I mean, I get tweets almost daily still of people like, this information is so helpful. I love this. And they feel like they know me because they're listening to me with their earbuds and they feel like a friend is talking to them. And there's so much power in that. So I've always loved the power of audio. And I love that now it doesn't have to be limited just to podcasting for those of us that really love the power of audio, that we can have live rooms like this and have a conversation and bring speakers on and get to know each other even better. And if I'm hosting with you, Sue, so of course I'm not going to be out doing something else. But if I was just a passive listener and even wanted to raise my hand and speak, I could be out walking my dog and still do that. Not as a host, but if I was just on the other side of that. And that is so cool. That's not something you really do with live streaming. So, so this article really spoke to me. I just love these types of articles talking about the power of social audio, and is definitely not a fad. I don't think so at all.
No, I think it's niching out into what each of those platforms, as I was saying earlier, into each of what that's going to be. And I think they are going to be different things for different people. But I don't think it's going anywhere in its entirety. I think we're only going to have more audio content in different ways. And to me, that's going to be a good thing. It's definitely going to be a good thing. And in terms of, as you're saying there about, live streaming being a bit more effort, at its base level here, you've got social audio in your pocket, and it literally is as easy as jumping in the space and turning the mic on if you want to speak and raising your hand. So yeah, it just removes a lot of the friction that perhaps live streaming's got, thinking about the lighting and kind of, am I standing too close to the window, or, someone going to burst in or, bomb the video or whatever in the background. I've had that before. My little boy comes and walks behind me or whatever. And, it doesn't matter on audio if that happens. So yeah, I just love the fact that it's different and that so many people are doing different things with it.
Hey, Joseline.
Hey guys, how's it going? Suze, Madeline, what's going on?
It's great having you here as always.
All right, so I'll start with the LinkedIn. And they call them audio events on LinkedIn because it's considered an event on LinkedIn. Every Sunday at 2:00, there is a town hall that occurs, and that's a very good place to start if you are wanting to know what's happening. That's what I would recommend starting in. It's a very good, close-knit community. I do have, I think you've shared it, but if not, I have a moment of a LinkedIn audio moments, well, a LinkedIn event moment. Sorry for that. That list not only the content that Judy Fox put together, who actually just replied to the tweet as I'm speaking to you, but also has the link to the town hall that Robert Hanna, who apparently has been designated the aggregator of all beta questions, so that every single Sunday, everybody gives him all their beta requests, and he passes it on like like we're in high school passing notes. So he passes the notes to the LinkedIn folks, and that's generally the flow. I haven't hosted any of my own as of yet. You need to get approved. LinkedIn actually has a creator program, and in that creator program, they assign you with like a local manager in your industry. From what I last understood, that program is on hold, if I'm not mistaken. So that if you haven't been a part of the creator program, there's a delay in getting assigned the your rep, your contact, which I think is related directly into having access to the audio event feature on your profile. So, but as I mentioned, it's every Sunday. I've experienced it. It's pretty cool. What's nice about it, one of the things that struck me immediately is the ability to go from mobile to desktop seamlessly, which is pretty cool. So that you could be on LinkedIn's app on your phone, then go to the desktop, and you don't really have to do anything. It just automatically there's no loss of sound, there's no 3-second delay, none of those types of things. The things that I would say compared to us is they have less emojis. I know we're blessed with having what do we have? We had added 10. Let's see. We have currently um, if you count all the shades, right? We have an abundance of, let's see, 6. So we have 6 times 5. So we have 30 emojis. We have 31 emojis that we could select from, right? So including the hand raise, or maybe less because that you can't change the color of the laugh thing. So approximately we have like let's see, 5 times the math. So 32 emojis, roughly, right? On LinkedIn, there's about 4, and there's a weird delay. Well, I'm so accustomed to seeing the speed in which the emojis appear on here that when I go to LinkedIn, it's like a subtly different experience. So there's a little delay of when it pops up, when it disappears. So that's something that to be aware of. There was an interesting thing also when you're brought up as a speaker. There's a whole section at the top, very similar to a lot of these apps. But on occasion, I found that when you're brought back down as a listener, you go all the way to the bottom, which is kind of like a weird experience. The microphone is automatically turned off when you're a speaker. Immediately it's muted, which is pretty cool. There is a host icon or designation, but there's a lot of discussions on making it more apparent that the host is the host. And if there's a co-host, there's no designation for a co-host. Currently that's still being built. There it is within a blogging type of format, meaning that you're in order to create this event, in order to create this audio space, we'll call it spaces, right? So in order to create a space within LinkedIn, it's called an audio event. You create like a post that's an event with days and times and things like that. That becomes like a blog post that allows you to add comments, and that sort of becomes a little bit of a back channel. It is a little bit not straightforward as to how you get to the blog post. You have to go through a number of steps. And what I have found is that there is a separate back channel for the people that are beta testers that we communicate while that's happening. And that's just a group DM type situation, which is nice. But currently there's no recording of the audio event. So there's that. There is the live feature. Let's see what else. But I would highly recommend it. And like I mentioned, either go to the calendar that Judy put together, and I could bring her in if you guys want me to bring her in, because I think she should be available, and to talk more about the audio event if you would like, or attend the Sunday 2 p.m. town hall. Those are the 2 things that I would recommend. The town hall is more for like beta questions and things like that. And then obviously the other events are just other people running events.
That was great. I love it. I would love for her to come chat with us if she's available. So, Suze, do you think LinkedIn audio events is going to, I mean, they're behind because they're still in beta. I like everything I'm hearing about it. I think it's going to do really well. How long? What kind of projection do you think is going to be to kind of catch up to Spaces and Clubhouse, being that it's still new, they're in beta, discoverability is still not quite there yet. I couldn't find any. I tried following those directions in the article. I couldn't find any. I couldn't find events at all.
You'd like to think that they've seen Spaces doing their thing. which, I would suggest that Spaces is kind of on a more of a competitor level, because like LinkedIn is already a platform and it's adding audio to it, whereas Clubhouse is a standalone social audio app. So Twitter's more akin to what LinkedIn are doing. They're adding an audio layer on top of the communities and the connections that people have already made on that platform. And both LinkedIn and Twitter have already got their branding, and people understand what each of those platforms do generally and what they're for. You'd be highly unlikely really to put your full CV over here on Twitter, and you're probably less likely to write your bio in 2 lines over on LinkedIn. That there are platforms with their own way of doing things. And I think because of that, that is where that content is really going to be different on each of the platforms. Over here on Twitter, we're still seeing that influx of NFTs, particularly. The NFT community have definitely embraced Twitter Spaces, and there are still a heck of a lot of spaces that are spun up every single day where people are talking about NFTs and crypto. Over on LinkedIn, I guess I would expect to see much more targeted, industry-targeted thought leadership type content over there, and potentially more of that idea of audio conference, if you see what I mean. I guess we're sort of more used to those kind of corporate events, those big corporate conferences, whether or not LinkedIn would end up having some kind of audio event that has, I don't know, like breakout spaces. So different, you've got like a networking event, but then you've got like breakout little miniature audio chats going on the side, but they're still part of that main thing. Potentially that's something they could think about doing, because the people that are on there and that corporate audience, that's something that they're probably used to in terms of networking spaces. And if you can bring that into an experience like that, then I think people would really like it and would go along and use it. Even just the language that's being used around LinkedIn, like registering for these audio events, attending the audio events. We wouldn't necessarily say come and attend our Twitter space. It's just a whole different tone of voice in terms of each platform, and that's why we can expect the content to be very different in each place, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'd like to see LinkedIn audio do well. I think it's a great idea. It makes sense for them to have an audio feature. You got so many people that are all in on LinkedIn. They don't want to leave the platform. And I know they want to do social audio because they're in Clubhouse, they're in Spaces. I think just like the lady that wrote that guide, they don't want to leave LinkedIn. So bring it to them. I think it's going to do well. I'm really excited to watch this play out, and I would love to be able to try it. Do we know how they're choosing beta hosts? Jocelyn, do you know?
It seems like it's connected to the creator program that they have. There is an application that I filled out a while ago. This is something that I'm looking at also getting the Robert into the space. He's over in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. He's a well-renowned lawyer, and I'm also seeing if I can connect with the other active beta testers to add some more clarity into the process of getting the being part of the beta program. If they are accepting, I'm not sure if they've held it or what the process is.
Hello, Judy.
Judy Fox. Hi, Judy.
Thank you for sharing that resource that I made. I appreciate that. And to answer the question about the beta, I think they've paused from what I've been told directly from the team, directly from LinkedIn, so it's not hearsay. They paused extending it to more beta until they already sent out a survey to all the beta members. They're collecting that right now, literally. I don't know if the deadline to fill it in was today or yesterday, but it's really happening right now. I've been able to go through that survey. They are asking the questions, is this worth it to you? What should we invest in? How should we make this more, I don't know what to call it, more juicy, I guess, more attractive for people to create rooms and get success. So they're taking it seriously, but they do move pretty slow over on LinkedIn. I mean, they're 10 years behind other platforms sometimes. So we always have to give them that.
Yeah, I really like the resource, and I'm glad that I've now got the calendar that I needed. It's the missing key, Judy. I mean, what kind of moved you to put that together? I'm guessing potentially as a beta tester, you wanted more people to know that these audio events were happening. But yeah, what's kind of driven it?
Yeah, same thing that we all were saying was, how do I find what events are coming up? And so I just created it for myself, mainly because I thought I saw a space where I said, oh, I could do this. This solves the problem that I personally have. And I love going to these rooms or checking them out. And I have a research mind. I'm an engineer by training. So my brain is always thinking, how can I collect things? How can I collate things? How can I put them together so I can see them? What's interesting is LinkedIn has reached out and asked me to even edit my own calendar, which cracks me up. But they are saying that my calendar inspired LinkedIn to create something that will come out with a more time-based or calendar-based approach. So that's really cool to see LinkedIn literally reach out and say, can we talk to you about your calendar? So
That's awesome. Wow.
They are paying attention. They do. I think I get a sense that they want this to work. They're mailing out sweatshirts this week. I don't understand. They just want to get hype, I guess, a little bit, but they're still LinkedIn. I don't know. Does that make sense? They're trying to do things. They're like a car that's like somebody's not shifting it totally smoothly.
That's such a great metaphor. I love it. I mean, I love the fact that they're jumping into it. And as I've said, I can really see it working over there. I think all of us feel like all of the platforms have moved slowly with different parts of different moving parts of what's been going on over the last year or so. But the fact that it's even over there and up and running, I think is testament to them obviously investing some thought and time into it, if nothing else. That we've also had that story in the last couple of months about LinkedIn investing in podcasts, which again, all the social platforms seem to be having half an ear to as well. So yeah, it's definitely another one, Madeleine, for us to keep an eye on.
Oh, absolutely. This is so great. Judy, thank you so much for sharing all this with us.
Thank you, Judy, for jumping in right at the last moment when we were talking about your calendar. It's awesome. That is the beauty of social audio right there, isn't it? We're talking about something, someone, Hosteline tips us off that this calendar's a real thing. And before the hour's out, we're talking to the woman who put the calendar together. Where else would that happen? It's amazing. I love social audio.
It's the power of social audio. Thank you to all of our speakers who came on and shared so much great stuff. And we're available in all of your favorite podcast apps. We're out there, All Things Audio. You can also go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com as well.
You certainly can. And you can catch us here on Twitter and use the hashtag AllThingsAudio, and we'll pick that up throughout the week. So that's it for this week. But thank you so much to everyone that's been here in the space with us and those of you listening. And we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, everybody.